Welcome, everyone, to our induction ceremony for the Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame. My name is Sam Rumore. I'm the chairman of the Lawyers Hall of Fame Committee. The year 2025 features the 21st induction ceremony for our Hall of Fame. And with our 5 new members, which we will induct today, we will have honored exactly 100 lawyers into the ranks of distinguished Alabama attorneys. This is a tremendous milestone. In our first 5 years, we inducted 4 new members each year. But due to the significant response of outstanding nominations, the number of new inductees was increased to 5 each year. Each nominee must have been deceased a minimum of 2 years at the time of their nomination, and at least one inductee must have been deceased a minimum of 100 years. This allows for recognition for contemporary or semi-contemporary lawyers, while also saving a place for recognizing the pioneering lawyers who built our profession but may not be as well known as more recent attorneys. So consider this: among all the lawyers of Alabama in the more than 200 years of its existence, these 100 honorees are the outstanding representative exemplars of our legal profession, and their stories are truly impressive. Our honorees have been nominated because they distinguished themselves in their law careers. They have demonstrated this through various examples of achievement, leadership, service, mentorship, political courage, or professional success. Here are representative standards for their selection: a record of extraordinary skill in the profession of law and service to the bar, status as an Alabama lawyer who made extraordinary contributions through the law at the state, national, or international level, a breadth of achievement rather than a single achievement, a profound respect for professional ethics, a leadership role in advancing the interests of their community, a recognized ability to mentor, lead, or inspire others in pursuing justice, and a lifetime of service. Over the years, we have recognized men and women, black and white attorneys, members of the Supreme Court of the United States and the Supreme Court of Alabama, other judges, both appellate and trial, both federal and state, military heroes, public servants, law professors, a clerk of the Alabama Supreme Court and reporter of decisions, assistant U.S. attorneys, governors, senators, congressmen, mayors, city councilors, an ambassador, speakers of the Alabama legislature, a speaker of the United States House of Representatives, and a vice president of the United States. But our largest single demographic is the group of lawyers, all outstanding individuals who have labored in the field of private practice. All of our lawyer inductees are the true giants, the mentors, and yes, the heroes of our profession. Their plaques are located in the lower rotunda of the Heflin-Torbert Judicial Building, and together they form a very impressive collection. I will have more remarks in a moment, but at this time, I'm recognizing our new Chief Justice, Sarah Stewart, for her welcoming remarks. Chief Justice.
Good morning. It's a little odd to be facing this way with this podium. I'm very glad that all of y'all are here. I'm sorry about the lack of folks from the Supreme Court. We've had a whole lot of different eggs in a whole lot of different baskets going on right now, and I apologize for being a tiny bit late myself. But it is my honor to be here with you all today to recognize and remember those of us who walked the path of justice before us. We have attorneys and we have judges and teachers whose lives were defined by their commitment to the rule of law, their integrity, and their service to the people of Alabama. Today, we are going to affirm that their contributions matter. And not just the cases that they heard or the rulings they issued, but in the example they have set for generations of legal professionals. These women and men upheld the dignity of the law, even when doing so required courage, perseverance, and personal sacrifice. In their lifetimes, they shaped the soul of our profession, and in their passing, they leave behind a legacy of justice. As we honor their place in the Lawyers Hall of Fame, let's be guided by their example and how we are going to serve, and how we are going to lead, and how we are going to remember that the law is ultimately about the people, their rights, their dignity, and their hopes for a just society. To all of the families and the friends and the colleagues, please know that their work endures. The echo of their wisdom is going to continue in this courtroom, in courtrooms across the state, in classrooms, and in communities. And through this recognition today, we are going to ensure that their dedication is remembered as a source of pride, a symbol of honor, and a call to all of us to follow in their footsteps. And I thank you again for the honor of being with you here today.
Thank you, Chief. Just to let you know, there is a videotape machine taping the ceremony, and I believe that we'll let you know at a later time how you can access that. There'll be an email of some sort sent out. Also, we just wanted to make sure that you're all invited to a luncheon after the ceremony. It'll be in the lower rotunda. And finally, there'll be an opportunity for photos. We have our photographer here, and we hope that after the ceremony that families can get together and we'll have the posed pictures of all the folks that are here with the families with the plaques. So be sure and take that opportunity to do that. There'll be ample opportunity to do that after the ceremony. Now, you may wonder, how are people chosen for the Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame? Well, there is a selection committee. This is a 12-person panel, and the 12 members are the director of the Alabama Department of Archives and History, 4 persons that are named by the Board of Bar Commissioners for a term of 3 years, the immediate past president of the Alabama State Bar, the executive secretary of the Alabama State Bar, or his or her designate, 1 person nominated by the Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court, 1 person nominated by each of the 3 presiding judges of the Federal District Courts of Alabama, and a representative of the Alabama Bench and Bar Historical Society. I encourage anyone making a nomination for our Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame to do so. The nomination form and instructions can be found on the State Bar's website. I say this each year, but remember, great lawyers cannot be considered for this honor if they have not first been nominated. So please, all of you are eligible for nominating people for the Hall of Fame. And I want to ask the members present of the Hall of Fame Selection Committee to please stand and be recognized. We will now introduce the new inductees to the Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame. We hope that all of their stories and achievements will serve to inspire the present and future citizens of Alabama. Our first honoree, if you look at your program, is Camille Wright Cook, and the citation will be read by former bar president Boots Gale.
Thank you, Sam. Camille Wright Cook was born on April 14, 1924, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. She died there on February 20, 2018. Camille was the daughter of Circuit Judge Reuben H. Wright and Camille Cersei Wright, and she was the sister of U.S. Bankruptcy Judge George Wright. Camille was a beloved legal educator for over 45 years, as well as a widely recognized and honored community volunteer. With regard to her volunteer service, she said, quote, "I just thought I needed to help," close quote. At her selection as a pillar of West Alabama in 2009, she expressed her strong belief that town and gown should work together. She considered it a privilege to serve both, and she did so throughout her life. Professor Cook earned both her BA and JD degrees from the University of Alabama. She graduated with UA's legendary Clawcat class of 1948 and began her career as an assistant professor of business law at Auburn University, where she taught for over 20 years. She returned to her alma mater in 1968, where she established an impressive record of service to legal education, the legal profession, and the bar for 25 years. From her appointment as administrative assistant to the dean, she would become a lecturer in law and ultimately the first female tenured professor at the University of Alabama School of Law. She was the first woman to receive an endowed professorship at the University of Alabama. She also served as an assistant dean of the law school and was the director of continuing legal education. She led in the establishment of the mandatory continuing legal education requirement for members of the Alabama State Bar. Professor Cook's areas of academic interest included family law, women in the law, children's rights, contracts, and sex discrimination. Over the years of her service, she authored and co-authored numerous political publications and coordinated the publication of many handbooks and studies offered by the ABA and the Alabama Bar. Professor Cook served in the University of Alabama administration for 2 years as the assistant academic vice president. This was just one of the many areas of her service to the law school, the broader university, the state bar, and hundreds of lawyers she mentored, challenged, and encouraged. She inspired many men and women to follow her selfless contributions to the noble profession of the law. Beyond academia, Professor Cook served the state of Alabama as a member of the Alabama Air Pollution Control Commission and the governor's working party to draft a new state constitution. She served on the Smithsonian Council of the Smithsonian Institute in Washington and the American Law Institute. She was also a fellow of the American Bar Foundation and received the Rawls Award of Special Merit from the ABA, the American Law Institute. Camille was recognized throughout her career with numerous awards, including the university's highest, the Algernon Sidney Sullivan Award, an Outstanding Commitment to Teaching Award from the UA National Alumni, and the Alabama State Bar Award of Merit, and several outstanding alumnus awards, including the University of Alabama's Distinguished Alumni Award in 1996. In the Tuscaloosa community, her wise counsel and hard work benefited many organizations, including the American Red Cross, the Girl Scout, the University Club, the Hospice of West Alabama, the Druid City Hospital Cancer Treatment Center, and the West Alabama Health Council, the Tuscaloosa Children's Center, the AmSouth Board of Directors, and the Vestry of Christ Episcopal Church in Tuscaloosa. Honored time and time again in law academia and her community, Camille Wright Cook, with grace and humility, provided an exemplary and selfless record of contributions to the legal profession and the practice of law. She was a shining example of what a lawyer could be, and she was admired and respected for her dedication to the law. Professor Cook felt that her greatest achievement was her family. 2 of her 3 sons are members of the Alabama State Bar, as is her son-in-law. Camille Cook was a shining example of the type of lawyer who should be recognized by induction into the Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame. The lawyers of Alabama were proud to honor her with this selection. Accepting for the family is the granddaughter, Cammie Cook.
Thank you so much. As you said, my name is Cammie Cook, and Camille Cook was my grandmother. She was also my best friend, my mentor, and my partner in crime, which is probably something you shouldn't say in this room. To our family, she was known as Mommiel. Mommiel was a warm grandmother. She always had a snack for you, and her door was always open. But at a young age, I started to recognize that when she was not playing the role of grandmother, she was a force to be reckoned with. Always a perfect Southern lady, but a force nonetheless. She was an incredibly strong and smart woman. Needless to say, she quickly became my hero. Throughout her life, Mommiel always had the greatest sayings, something my cousins and I have started to refer to as Mommielisms. I can't remember when I started writing them down, but over the years, it became a pretty long list. If Mommiel loved something, it was simply marvelous. If she really enjoyed it, it was a happy time. Those 2 phrases have become the highest praise in our family and could probably be a call and response with this row over here. Growing up, if I told her my brother was on my nerves, she simply responded, "We don't have nerves in this family." And one I've really carried close to heart is when someone asks how tall I am, I channel my inner Mommiel and say 5'12". From push me out in the sunshine one more time to pretty is as pretty does, and you gon' spoil that child, Mommiel has influenced our vocabulary as a family. But the most unique way she showed her love for us was telling each of us that we were her favorite grandchild named blank. It took me way too long to realize I was the only grandchild with my name, but it sure did make me feel special. Not all of the Mommielisms I wrote down were cute phrases. Some of them were pearls of wisdom I wanted to remember forever. She always said that a law degree was the best education you could receive. And one day, when discussing how to navigate the world as a woman, she told me something we all need to be reminded regardless of our gender. We need to go in every day and exercise our strength. And she did that. Mommiel was the most positive person I've ever known, a true Pollyanna, as she would say. But her life was not easy. I heard stories of her hardship, but rarely from her. I knew she had experienced great loss. She had had cancer 3 times, but she was never anything but optimistic. In fact, one of those diagnoses included her being told by some man she had 1 year to live. She lived 40 more years and even outlived the doctor that told her that, which is just about the level of stubborn of most people in our family. After college, when she was denied admission to Harvard Law, on the grounds of being a woman, she didn't let that deter her path into the legal world. Instead, she went on to become the first female law faculty member to receive tenure at the University of Alabama Law School and the first to hold an endowed chair. She taught decades of lawyers in the state, both at Auburn and Alabama, and saw them as uniquely as each of her own grandchildren. I cannot tell you how many times we'd be out to eat, someone would stop by the table, she immediately knew she taught them and wanted to know everything about what they were doing. While she's always been Hall of Fame in my book, I cannot thank the bar enough for celebrating Mommiel. It means so much to our family, and I know this is an organization she had the utmost respect for. Thank you for seeing her as the brilliant legal mind she was, but to me, she will always be my favorite grandmother named Camille Cook. Thank you so much.
Just to remind everyone, after today, the citations that are being read by the committee members will be posted on the bar's website. So you can read these along with the other 100 biographies, and it really is impressive. And one other thing, all of the plaques are located in the lower rotunda of this building. So before you leave today, see if you can go downstairs to see the hall with all the plaques. It's truly impressive. Our next inductee will be James O'Haley, and to read the citation will be Wendy Krug.
Good morning. Though always an Alabama lawyer, James Haley was born in Copiah County, Mississippi in 1912. His family moved to Jefferson County, Alabama when he was just a child, and he attended Barrett Elementary School and then was graduated from Woodlawn High School. Despite the country suffering in the midst of the Great Depression, James Haley attended Howard College for a year and a half. But then he had to leave school. And when he left school, he went to work as the receptionist at Lang Simpson Law Firm. Then he got promoted to file clerk at Lang Simpson Law Firm. But because of his work and his experience and his diligence, he was allowed to enroll in Birmingham School of Law, despite only having that year and a half of college. After only a year and a half in law school, he was allowed to sit for the Alabama State Bar and passed it. And after passing the bar, Lang Simpson promoted him to secretary of Mr. Simpson, where he remained until he was graduated from law school in 1938. He gave the class oration for the graduation class, and that same year, he married Mildred Ellis, a clerk in the circuit clerk's office. He served as a lieutenant in the Navy during World War II and was a gunnery officer from 1944 to 1946. And after the war, he returned to Lang Simpson, where they let him practice law, and he became a partner. During his many years there, he was recognized as one of the finest civil defense lawyers in the state of Alabama. He became president of the Birmingham Bar Association in 1963. He served as the first chairman of the Practice and Procedure section of the Alabama State Bar. He was a member of the International Association of Insurance Counsel, the International Academy of Lawyers, and the International Academy of Trial Lawyers, and he was a fellow in the American College of Trial Lawyers. Frequently in the courtroom, Haley would chew on a big old fat cigar, trying to convince the jurors that he was nothing but a country lawyer. After 32 years with Lang Simpson, Haley began more than a decade of public service when Governor Albert Brewer appointed him to the Jefferson County Circuit Court bench in 1968. Renowned as a fair and courteous judge, he was also considered to be exceptionally well-versed in the law, being given the very first Alabama Bar Association Award of Merit. That designated him as the state or federal judge who contributed the most to the administration of justice in the state of Alabama. After 12 years as a judge, Haley retired from the bench, but he didn't retire. In 1980, he became a member of the Cumberland School of Law's faculty and also became associated with the plaintiff's firm of Hare, Wood, Newell, and Newton. Cumberland hired him to raise their trial practice program to the next level so its participants could compete on the national stage. It didn't take long. In 1981, his team won the national championship. Then they won it again in 1984, then again in 1987. He won the Jacobson Award for Excellence in Teaching Trial Advocacy from the Roscoe Pound Foundation. At Cumberland, Haley also taught civil procedure and workmen's compensation. He was recognized as the state's preeminent authority on workmen's compensation, and his handbook on workmen's compensation was first published in 1982. Haley also developed Cumberland's Center for Advocacy and Clinical Education, which continues to be a living testament to his lifetime of accomplishments. James O. Haley was an American lawyer for 66 years. He was active at his law firm until he died at the age of 89 in 2002. He earned his accolades through hard work and unyielding, honest commitment to the law. He excelled in all aspects of our profession: defense lawyer, plaintiff's lawyer, author, judge, and teacher. He constantly reminded his students, as well as other lawyers, that regardless of what type of law we practice, we are all members of a noble profession, and that the torch has just been passed to us. We are admonished to keep it burning with dignity, respect, and honor. The lawyers of Alabama pay respect to and honor Judge James O. Haley with induction into its Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame. And accepting the plaque today is his grandson, Toby Dykes. Would you come up here, please? Right here. Here you go. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you so much for those words. I can't top that. So, but my name is Toby Dykes. I was Judge Haley's grandson. And before I start, I just want to mention his family that is here today. My Uncle John, he practices law and has practiced law in Birmingham for years. His wife, Aunt Sandy, my mom, Jane Haley, my dad, Ron, my daughter, Molly, and my mother-in-law, Bertus. And then the friends who came down today who were just like family for my grandfather. You know, my memory, it's such an honor for him to be recognized today. And my memories of my grandfather really start just as a grandfather. We would throw hickory nuts up and down the driveway in his backyard for years. We would go to the lake, stop for ice cream, and then go fish and watch Grandma catch all the fish. And then, you know, I came back to Birmingham to go to law school, and it was then that I had an opportunity to really get to experience what my grandfather was as a lawyer and a judge. When I started law school, I competed in the Haley competition, which was named after my grandfather, and it was Trial Advocacy Program. My partner in the competition, first name was Haley, and he commented as we started the first trial, you know, maybe they'll treat us better because of my first name being Haley. I thought, but did not say, maybe they'll treat us better because I'm his grandson. I also got to listen to my classmates talk about the workers' comp class that they were taking from my grandfather while I was there in law school. And then after I graduated from law school and got the opportunity to practice law in Birmingham, I was able to go with my grandfather to lunch most weeks and to see the lawyers come up to Gramps. Can you not hear, Mom? To see the lawyers come up to Gramps while we were eating lunch and tell him about the way he impacted their career and their lives was a wonderful opportunity. And even when I would go outside of Birmingham to hearings and people would learn, oh, you're Judge Haley's grandson, they always had a story or something to tell about my grandfather. And even though I didn't get the opportunity to practice law with him, he still molded me as a lawyer. I'll always remember he told me that you can't control whether you're the smartest lawyer in the room. I don't know what he was saying about my intelligence, but he always said that. But he did say you can control whether or not you're the most prepared lawyer in the courtroom or in a hearing, and you should always be the most prepared. And I've always strived to be that way. He also said and reminded me of the importance of your reputation as a lawyer. And I have always thought about that and tried to hold myself out and be an honest and ethical lawyer so that my grandfather would be proud of me for doing things the way that he always did. And I'll say, Uncle John, for me to have had the experience I had with him over 4 years, I'm so envious of you for the over 30 years that you got to practice with Gramps and learn and watch him. I understand now why you're such an amazing lawyer that you are. James Haley was a defense lawyer with Lang Simpson. He was a judge. He started the trial program at Cumberland, and he was a mentor at Hare Wynn. He loved the law. It was his hobby. It was his life. He loved nothing more than going to Hare Wynn and getting to be a mentor to the lawyers there. The only thing that he loved more than the law was Grandma, who he was married to for over 60 years. The other thing that my grandfather always said was, you should always learn. And the minute you stop learning as a lawyer, you should stop. Gramps never stopped learning. Up until the last day he went to the office, he was always learning and loving the law. In closing, my grandpa loved lawyers. He loved being around lawyers. And he would be so honored to be inducted today to the Alabama Legal Hall of Fame, a group of lawyers. Thank y'all so much.
Now, I mentioned that we have a special category to honor lawyers that have been deceased a minimum of 100 years. And our inductee is George Washington Lane. George Washington Lane was born in Cherokee County, Georgia in 1806. In 1821, he moved with his parents to Alabama, and the family settled in Limestone County. He received only an elementary education, but he read law under Athens, Alabama Judge Daniel Coleman and was admitted to the bar in 1826. He went into private practice in Athens. Lane served as a member of the lower house of the Alabama State Legislature from 1829 to 1832. In 1832, he was elected judge of the county court. Then in 1835, he was chosen to serve as a circuit court judge, where he continued in office for 12 years. After leaving the bench, he moved to Huntsville and opened a law office there, where he practiced until 1861. In the presidential election of 1848, he served as a Whig elector for Zachary Taylor. Now, the 1840 census indicated that Lane owned 44 enslaved persons. When he moved to Huntsville, he did something very unpopular for that era in Alabama history. He set all of his slaves free. Lane was very much against secession, was a strong Unionist, and he became what was known as a cooperationist, seeking to keep our country together. On January 12, 1861, one day after Alabama announced secession, Judge William Giles Jones resigned as the federal district judge for Alabama. President Buchanan gave Lane a recess appointment to fill that position. This was carried over by President Lincoln after his March inauguration. The appointment was confirmed by the Senate 2 days later, and Lane received his commission on the same day. Lane's duties, however, were severely hampered by the fact that Alabama, as a secessionist state, did not recognize his authority. To make matters worse, an angry mob demanded that he resign. In response, Lane nailed a Union flag on the roof of his house and swore that it would be torn down only over his dead body. Today, the residents of that house, located at 511 Adams Street in Huntsville, still fly the American flag from the porch in honor of Judge Lane. Judge Lane had maintained his allegiance to the federal government throughout the secession movement in Alabama. Similarly to his estrangement from his neighbors in Limestone County after the manumission of his slaves, he was alienated from his fellow citizens of Huntsville due to carrying out his appointed duties. One of his duties was to determine how much food was kept in area smokehouses in order to help feed the Union Army, which occupied Huntsville beginning in April of 1862. He was also tasked with approving passes for civilians to go from one location to another. With his knowledge of which families were pro-Union and which could not be trusted, he had the final say on the locals' travels. And he advised the military that civilians who assisted Confederate forces in inflicting guerrilla damages on the Union troops be transferred to northern prisons. As the occupation of Huntsville by Union forces came and went, so did the Lane family, for their own safety. They fled the city twice when their lives were threatened. During the second evacuation, they lived at the Galt House in Louisville, Kentucky, waiting for the political climate to improve before returning to Alabama. It was there that Judge Lane died on November 12, 1863. The Louisville newspaper, when reporting his death, said that Judge Lane found it impossible to exercise his judicial functions in Huntsville. George Washington Lane is buried in Louisville, Kentucky, but his family eventually returned to Huntsville. One of his daughters married a Union veteran, but two of his sons joined the Confederate Army, and one, Captain Robert W. Lane, was in Forrest's cavalry. That's Nathan Bedford Forrest, and he died in the service as a result of exposure. George Washington Lane is considered to be one of the bravest supporters the Union ever had. Despite the anger, accusations, and resentment of his fellow Alabamians, a noted historian of the Civil War and Reconstruction era in Alabama history, Walter L. Fleming, gave this positive assessment of Lane's life when he wrote, "Of the men of position and influence who were found in the ranks of opposition to the Confederate government after 1861, Judge Lane is the only one whose course can command respect. He was faithful to the Union from first to last, while the others were erratic persons who changed sides because of personal spites and disappointments. George Washington Lane was faithful. He is now recognized for his political courage at a difficult time in history by his induction into the Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame. And since he has been deceased so long, we were not able to locate any direct ancestor or direct descendants, but accepting the plaque on behalf of Madison County is Bar Commissioner for Madison County, Mark Dubrow. Is Mark here? I hope he's here because there he is. Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. As you've heard, my name is Mark Dubrow, and I am a Bar Commissioner for the 23rd Judicial Circuit. I am also a former president of the Huntsville-Madison County Bar. On behalf of the lawyers of the Huntsville-Madison County Bar, and we thank you for this honor. You've heard everything you could about Judge Lane and why he is worthy of this honor. This courageous man. I could not agree more. I believe in my heart that Judge Lane will appreciate the fact that I stand here today to accept this award. We thank you for this and thank you for your time, and congratulate Judge Lane for making it into the Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame. Thank you so much.
Our next inductee is Alexander Worthy Newton, but everyone knew him as Alec. Alexander Worthy Newton was born in Birmingham, Alabama on June 19, 1930. His parents were Jeff and Annis Newton. His leadership qualities were demonstrated early in his life, as Alec became an Eagle Scout. When he graduated from Phillips High School in 1948, he attended the University of Alabama. from which he graduated in 1952. He then served as a company commander in the United States Army Infantry during the Korean War. At the time of his discharge from the Army, he had attained the rank of captain. After his Army service, Ellick began law school at the University of Alabama. In 1957, he began his law practice at the Birmingham firm of Hare, Wynn and Newell, which shortly thereafter became Hare, Wynn, Newell, and Newton. He quickly built a reputation for himself as a dedicated and talented attorney, representing plaintiffs in jury trials. At one time, he had more million-dollar jury verdicts for plaintiffs than any other lawyer in Alabama. Several of his cases ended in notable settlements. Early in his career, when the Saturday Evening Post magazine accused Alabama coach Paul Bear Bryant of encouraging violence in his players and of conspiring to fix the outcome of the 1962 Alabama-Georgia game, he represented Coach Bryant in his libel suit against the magazine. When it was discovered that the allegations were based on false and fabricated evidence, the Post offered Coach Bryant an out-of-court settlement. Mr. Newton also represented the family of Davy Allison in their lawsuit against McDonnell Douglas Aircraft Company. After conducting extensive flight testing, it was confirmed that the accident was caused by the failure of the aircraft. McDonnell Douglas quickly settled that case. Mr. Newton was devoted to the advancement and integrity of the legal profession. He served as the Alabama chair of the American College of Trial Lawyers, a member of the board of directors and Alabama chair of the International Academy of Trial Lawyers, president of the University of Alabama School of Law Foundation, president of the International Society of Barristers, and for 7 years served as a member of the Jefferson County Judicial Nominating Committee. He was a member of the American Bar Association, the Alabama State Bar, and the Birmingham Bar Association. He served on several committees of both the state and local bar associations. While serving on the Birmingham Bar Association Executive Committee, Mr. Newton was instrumental in nominating and electing the first African American member of the Executive Committee, who later became the first African American president of the Birmingham Bar Association. Also, while a member of the Jefferson County Judicial Nominating Committee, he secured the nomination of Birmingham's first African American Circuit Court judge. Mr. Newton received several honors for his commitment to the profession. In 1982, he received the Sam W. Pipes Distinguished Alumnus Award from the University of Alabama School of Law. In 1984, the University of Alabama's Fair Law Society named him Outstanding Alumnus for that year, and he was chosen as the 2007 Birmingham Bar Association's Lawyer of the Year. Ellick Newton was equally committed to community development and civic causes. He was a member of the Leadership Alabama Class 4, a founding member of the Board of Directors of First Commercial Bank, currently Synovus. He was a member of Independent Presbyterian Church, the American Legion, and spent more than 50 years as a member of the Monday Morning Quarterback Club. Mr. Newton served as a director of the Birmingham Airport Authority, vice president of the Birmingham Racing Commission, and was a board member of the St. Vincent's Hospital Foundation, the Jefferson County Health Care Authority, and the Alabama Trust Fund. Finally, Ellick had been a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity at the University of Alabama. In 2014, he received Sigma Chi International's Significant SIG Award, which was the organization's highest honor. Ellick Newton was respected by all who knew him and was deeply loved by his friends and family. His significant contributions to the legal profession and to his community were overwhelming and are felt to this day. He was an extraordinary man. The Alabama State Bar proudly acknowledges him as a member of its Lawyers Hall of Fame, and accepting the plaque is his daughter, Kelly Hammond.
The Newton family would first like to thank the Board of Bar Commissioners and each of the lawyers who sponsored the application for our father, Ellick W. Newton, to be inducted into the Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame. Our dad went to the office every day of the week, 24/7. He never thought of it as work because he loved what he did. He enjoyed the people he worked with, whether they be the plaintiff side or on the defense side. On occasion, Dad would take the 4 of us children to hear Wind when it was at the City Federal Building after early church while Mom, Sue, sang in the choir at the 11 o'clock service. Dad said the staff could always tell when the Newton children had been there. Dad had a big desk, and under the glass he had newspaper clippings, quotes from various people, family photos, especially of the grandchildren, and there was an index card that he had typed, and it said, "My ambition, to be the best plaintiff's lawyer in Alabama. February 1957, A.N." I can remember asking him one Sunday while at his office why he wanted to be a lawyer. And he said, to help people. And that he did. Family, clients, friends, and people he didn't know. He enjoyed making a difference in someone's life, whether it was to provide more education or to meet an immediate need. He loved the practice of law and the decorum of a courtroom. In recent years, I was told a story of a young lawyer from a prominent firm in Birmingham who had been in court with my dad years earlier as a fresh associate for the defense. After the hearing, my dad gave this young man a phone call and told him, "You always stand when the judge walks into his courtroom." This lawyer was so appreciative for the phone call, and you can believe that was the last time the lawyer sat when a judge entered his courtroom. Now, we all know my dad could not have done all that he accomplished without our mom, Sue. She was his biggest supporter. She kept the home front with 4 children, but she loved being with Dad when they traveled several times a year to different legal conventions. He called his mom almost every day. I bet there's several people here today that enjoyed going to his parents' house on a Saturday morning for breakfast. Nobody can make biscuits like Grandmama. I think we can say today that Dad reached his goal of being one of the best plaintiff lawyers in Alabama and is in very good company with this year's inductees. And though he did not seek out accolades, I think he would be honored and pleased to be inducted into the Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame. Thank you.
And our 5th inductee today is Lewis Charles Wright, and the citation will be read by Tim Lewis.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Lewis, and I am privileged and honored to read this citation for Lewis Charles Wright. One of the reasons is because I knew Judge Wright. When you walked in a room of people and you saw Judge Wright, you knew he was a judge. He had he didn't have to have a robe. He just was a imposing but not intimidating man, a gracious man, but he was a leader and you could see it. So without further ado, I will read the citation. Lewis Charles Wright was born in Etowah County, Alabama on May 14, 1922, the youngest son of Lewis Clifford and Elizabeth McBrayer Wright. He attended the public schools of Etowah County and was a graduate of the Etowah County High School. He next attended and graduated in 1943 from the Alabama Polytechnic Institute, now Auburn University. In September of 1943, Wright entered the United States Naval Officer Training School at Northwestern University in Chicago, Illinois, from which he was commissioned as an ensign in the United States Naval Reserve. Upon being commissioned in December 1943, Ensign Wright was assigned as the communications officer on the LCI-402, an infantry landing craft, which was serving in the Pacific Theater in World War II. In 1944, Ensign Wright, aged 22 years, was named the commanding officer of the USS LCI-572, also an infantry landing craft with a complement of 4 officers and 24 enlisted men. He commanded this ship, which saw action in the South Pacific and in the liberation of the Philippine Islands until the war ended in 1945. Wright retired from the Naval Reserve at the rank of commander in 1967, having completed 23 years of service. In March of 1946, Wright entered the University of Alabama School of Law, from which he graduated in 1949. He was a member of the Fair Law Society. Because he graduated from the state law school, Wright was automatically licensed to practice law in Alabama. He returned to his native Etowah County and began his law practice in Gadsden, Alabama. In 1955, Wright ran for and was elected as the circuit solicitor of the 16th Judicial Circuit, which consisted then of Etowah County. As a circuit solicitor, Wright said that he personally investigated all homicides and worked up my own cases. One case I was involved in was written up in True Detective. I've looked for that, but I can't. I'm dying to see that, but I haven't been able to find one for that year. Wright served 2 terms as solicitor and then returned to the practice of law, ultimately becoming a partner in the firm of Dortch, Allen, Wright, and Wright, where he practiced from 1965 until 1969. Wright was elected as a state representative from Etowah County and served from 1967 to 1969 in the Alabama legislature. On September 12, 1969, the Alabama legislature passed Act Number 987, abolishing the Court of Appeals and creating 2 new intermediate appellate courts, the Court of Criminal Appeals and the Court of Civil Appeals. In November of 1969, Governor Albert Brewer appointed State Representative Wright as one of the 3 judges on the new Court of Civil Appeals. Judge Wright maintained his seat on the Court of Civil Appeals from 1969 until his retirement in January of 1987. During this time, he served as presiding judge for more than 15 years. Immediately after retirement as an active judge, he took active retired status and remained a participant in the proceedings of the Court of Civil Appeals until 1999. As an active and retired judge, Judge Wright served for 30 years as a member of that court. In his 30 years of service to the Court of Civil Appeals, Judge Wright authored 1,966 opinions, more than any other judge on that court up to that time. From 1973 until his retirement in 1987, Judge Wright also served by appointment of the Alabama Supreme Court as the Chief Judge of the Court of the Judiciary. Additionally, he was called upon twice to serve as a special judge with the Supreme Court of Alabama. Judge Wright was athletic, enjoyed playing golf and gardening. He admitted to never taking a vacation, believing that he had such a responsibility to the parties in the suit that he couldn't take a vacation. He also stated that, quote, most people just don't realize what a mental exercise it is to sit at a desk and put your opinions on paper hour after hour, day after day. You get mentally weary. It's actually more tiring than physical labor, close quote. Judge Wright served as the president of the Etowah County Bar Association and was a member of the Alabama Law Institute and the American Bar Association. Judge Wright died on November 27, 2001 in Montgomery. He loved the law and the judicial system to which he dedicated his professional career. Accepting the award for Judge Wright's family is Dennis Wright.
Thank you very much, Tim, for providing that information. And I also want to thank first the Supreme Court for Madam Chief Justice for agreeing to videotape the ceremony today. Unfortunately, my sister was unable to travel to be here, so we're certainly be glad that she can view this later. I also want to thank Judge Sharon Yates and John Wilkerson and Rebecca Oates, who were instrumental in helping put together the application for my father's admission into the Hall of Fame. You know, my dad didn't start out to be a lawyer when he was young. As Tim's already referred to, he loved farming, he loved gardening, went to school, and his goal was to be a county extension agent. And I think he probably would have been very happy doing that. But like many of his generation, upon leaving the service at the end of World War II, he had the opportunity provided through the GI Bill to go to law school. And I'm not sure where that seed was planted, but I know it was something he came to relish as he ended his legal career. And in fact, it was interesting, as Tim mentioned, the ship he was on was not a very large one, not a very large complement of sailors, had 4 officers, and he later learned years after he'd been on the bench that another of the officers that served with him had become a justice on the Texas Supreme Court. So something must have gone on during that time they were at sea. I'm not sure that planted that seed. And as you alluded to, my dad did come to love the law and understand the responsibility that lawyers have in our society. And also, he thoroughly enjoyed being a judge. I know he often spoke at times of the pressure of practicing law, as already has been also mentioned here today. And he enjoyed the opportunity to be on the bench and employ what he had learned, but also take the responsibility for the efficient and impartial administration of the law and how important it was to those before him in the cases that he presided over and as our society itself. I know he enjoyed being a judge. Of course, as you judges know, it has a few perks. Well, one of the things I always thought was unusual is that he would get asked to marry people from time to time. And the first time he did it, I think I was just in high school, and I even asked him at the time, "Are you sure this is legal?" And we heard of probate judges and justice of the peace, but I didn't know about appellate judges marrying people, but apparently it was. And in fact, at the time it came for my wife and I to be married, Vicki, I thought it might be kind of neat to have him perform the service. So I asked him to do it, and he agreed, and he only charged me $25. So I thought that was pretty reasonable. But he did enjoy the only thing he loved more than law and being on the court was his family, and particularly our mother, his wife, Maxine, that they were married for over 50 years. And he was always supportive of his 3 children and grandchildren and now great-grandchildren. And I would certainly like to thank the committee. I don't know whether he thought he would have been worthy of being in the Hall of Fame, but I'm sure if he was here today, he would be proud of that. And so for that, I thank the committee for extending this recognition.
This now concludes our 21st annual induction ceremony. We now have 100 members in the Alabama Lawyers Hall of Fame, and we should all be very proud of that. I've got 3 pointers of housekeeping. Number 1, we ask that the families come up, families and friends, with the recipient of the plaque so that our photographer who wants to take your pictures, and they'll probably appear in the Alabama Lawyer magazine at the next issue. So please assemble for that. Number 2, there is a buffet luncheon downstairs, so don't leave without having lunch. And 3, for the committee members, you need to leave early because we're going to have our meeting right after that, our lunch, to select next year's inductee. So that's our annual meeting. So thank you all for being here, and these proceedings are adjourned. Thank you.